Give us one moment. Okay, so we are ready to go. Welcome, everyone. So we are in the Live as Frequency Summit, and today we're going to talk a little bit about DNA Expression Cellular Upgrade, what that is. We're going to experience it, and I am super excited to kind of go back to the roots because this is the first really big cellular process that I worked with. And some of you were even in my very first class I ever taught back in March of 2020. And I wanted to give a little background of where this process came from because it was such a powerful space for me to have the experience of what happens when we reprogram on a cellular level. And so I was dating this guy, and I found that I was just working really, really, really hard on trying to connect with a frequency that just wasn't working for me. And I noticed that the more I kept going and giving my energy to something that clearly wasn't working, the older I looked. And I was like, what is happening? And then I would look in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a wrinkle. Oh my gosh, it's this. And I started hearing that my cells were connected to the way I was processing life force energy and all of those little thoughts and beliefs that I was having about, oh, well, I have to keep showing up and oh, I have to see if this works. And all of those different things that we do when we're first starting to date different people is like, oh, it'll get better. I mean, how many times have you guys had that experience, even if it's not with maybe a man, maybe, or a woman, or it could be just with a friend, a new friendship? And I knew immediately that my body was releasing life force energy and my cells were holding programs. And so I started to hear reprogram the belief systems through your cells. So I started doing that, and within just days, I started to glow again and all these things. But what's even more fun is that by reprogramming my cells, it allowed me to start choosing my truth in a way that I felt very grounded in it. And I started shifting my life in the most fascinating ways. And so I knew at that point it was something that I needed to get out there because I have been studying energy and frequency. I've been an energy healer for over 30 years. And until I started reprogramming on a cellular level, it was all awesome. Believe me, I've always loved it, but nothing worked like this. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. I am going to just pause the recording for one moment. And I'm going to pull up my screen. And I know all of you on YouTube are watching me do this, so hang tight for one moment. I know there's probably a better way to do this, but I don't know it. So we're going to do it the way I know how. All right, and now let me go back to resume. Here we are, DECU, DNA Expression Cellular Upgrade. When we start to reprogram on a cellular level, we really do begin to bypass the subconscious mind. And I feel like this is probably one of my biggest passions in this because before I started reprogramming on a cellular level, I reprogrammed through the mind, and I would go in and readjust the synapse responses of the mind. And I still do that with my work sometimes. But what I found was that when we shift the frequency of the body, the mind doesn't really matter anymore because consciousness begins to follow The intelligence, I call it our divine molecular technology. And DQ is the first step of turning that on. So let's go into a little bit about this. So the way that our bodies are working now is that the operating system of our body is running through the matrix. Another way of saying that is that it's running through our programming. And this creates looping cycles. There was a friend of mine that passed away, Vale, and some of you know Vale. When he died, that was the first thing that he came back and told me was that it's not supposed to be this way. And he brought me out to where I was looking over the earth, and really, in a really quick way, I basically went through all of the matrix, but down to a cellular level. And he was showing me that actually this through the flower of life, and how every time we think we break out of a cycle, we're really just entering into another cycle. And the biggest reason why is because of the way we're using consciousness, is that we are using consciousness in a projection of programming. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but really looking at this picture, because even when we are bringing consciousness out into, like when we're reading the Akashic records, or we're going into the astral travel, and we're doing all these amazing things, and we're getting to really high frequencies, we're still experiencing it through the matrix. And this is what he was showing me, but he also showed me how we can break it. So that's what I'm going to go to here as we continue. So this is how consciousness is being used for most of us right now, is that we are projecting it. So we are looking to create change. We use that desire or the intention, and then we project what it is that we think that we want. And when we do that, we're projecting our consciousness through a program. As we start to use consciousness how it is intended to be used, we begin to attune our consciousness to an intelligence that's stored in the DNA. This is what Vale was showing me. She showed me that when we are born, there is a chemical that is released into the body, and that is DMT. A small amount of DMT is released from the pineal gland, and when that happens, a frequency is also released. And that frequency is the frequency of 963, or source intelligence. And that frequency is transcribed into the DNA. Most of us will go our whole entire lives and only experience a small amount of what that frequency is. What he was showing me is that consciousness is the tool that we use to attune to that frequency. And that frequency has an intelligence, and that intelligence is actually our innate being. So if we are continuing to project consciousness through our programming in order to create or change, we are doing just what he was showing me. We're going from one loop to the next loop. But when we start to release this transcribed frequency that's in our DNA, it changes the biophotons of our body. It brings all of our cells into a higher spin state or a frequency, and then our consciousness has the experience of that. So really think about that. Consciousness is the tool. When we are using consciousness, a lot of time we think, oh, I'll go to a higher state of consciousness and that's what's shifting my reality. But when we do that, we're only shifting it through another program. When we use consciousness to attune to the frequency that's transcribed in our DNA, We bypass all of the programming and we learn to hold consciousness in an abstract frequency, or the frequency of source. So this is what it looks like when we are speaking to our body, to ourselves. We all have these underlying belief systems. So one of them, I'm sure we all can resonate in, is I am unworthy. And when we have those thoughts, the way our cells are working right now is that they are reading the environment of your body. Dr. Bruce Lipton has done a lot of studies around this of how epigenetic codes are getting turned on. Well, they get turned on by the environment of your body, and that's your thoughts, what you eat, how much you exercise, your actual environment that you live in. And all of that is true. But when we start to turn on the divine operating system of our body and we stop running in the matrix or the programmed body, this begins to shift. The way I want you to look at it right now is that your cell is looking into an environment to be told what to do. Dr. Bruce Lipton actually has a saying, I think it's like, your cells are like little soldiers waiting to be told what to do. What do you want your cells to be told? What's really fun about the cells is that they will listen. And your cells know how to shift identity. And they can shift identity a lot faster and a lot easier than our mind, because it bypasses the subconscious programming. When we start to shift the way the cells are operating and we shift the cells into higher frequencies, we can start to reprogram them to things like, I am powerful. And when we start to reprogram the cells to, I am powerful, it raises the frequency of our physical body. Most of us are vibrating anywhere between 7.5 and 8.3 hertz. Your thoughts are connected to that frequency. So even when we are bringing consciousness into these states where we are so elevated outside of our programming, our consciousness is still being held in an environment that is vibrating at the frequency of 7.5 and 8.3 hertz. And then we all sit around and wonder, why can't I heal instantly? Why can't I manifest instantly? It's because our cells, our physical form that we identify in, is vibrating at such a low frequency. But there's another 90% that we are not tapping into and experiencing. Right now, we're only experiencing about 10% of our human potential. And that is because we're identifying in what we see, what we hear, what we know, what we taste, what my body feels like, what my emotions are. We are identifying in the 10% that is programmed. That is what I call the programmed body. And we think that that is all there is, but there's so much more. Your body is a multi-dimensional being. It is a quantum being. So right now you're experiencing 7.5 hertz of what is transcribed at 963 in your DNA. 963 hertz is a transcribed frequency that is in your DNA. And that has an intelligence. So when we start to reprogram the body through the I am on a cellular level, we begin to teach the body that it has the ability to shift, and it shifts instantly. Well, why would we want to do that? When we teach the cells that it can shift identity, our body starts to identify in the other 90% of who we really are. So these are the 5 bodies. I'm not going to go into them a lot, but I am going to connect them to the 5 levels of consciousness. So the first body is the programmed body. And a lot of us know people that are fully living in their programmed body. These would be the people that you never know who they're going to be when they show up. They react to life and they don't have a lot of consciousness. They don't process their decisions and they think that life is happening to them and they react. The second body is the awakening. And I'm sure that you all can remember a moment where you either woke up to something you were unconscious of, or maybe you had a big awakening where you went from unconsciousness to consciousness. And some of us have that experience. Then the third body here is the third level of consciousness, which is when we start to see that we have a choice and how we want to live our life. And we go and try to make it different. This is when we start to project consciousness. We think, well, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to go try this and it's going to make me feel different. Or I want $1 million, so I'm going to do what this person did and I'm going to make $1 million too. And we just try. We try to make it happen, but we're trying to make it happen through a programmed experience. This is when we continue to loop and recreate what we already have. When we move to the fourth body, we move into the listen and do. This is when we begin to attune our consciousness to that frequency of source, and we receive information outside of our programming. So we're either going to, we'll use our intuitive powers. So it's going to be the clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, and clairsentience. We begin to sense information that is not in our programming, and we get really good at it. And it keeps us outside of the programmed experience of the body, mind, and reality. And then we can move into the fifth body, which is BioQuantum. And that is when we actually meet the frequency of source consciously. And in this state, we actually no longer need consciousness. We just become the intelligence of source. There's no observation, there's no listening. We are just being. I like to say in this state that we see before we see, we hear before we hear, we know before we know, and we feel without an emotional response. So as we can begin to shift the reality of our body by ascending through the I am, moving from I am unworthy to I am powerful, there is a moment in that we realize that even the I am is a looping cycle. To say I am source, I am divine is still an identity. It is still naming. It is the ego saying, I am this. And yes, we can hold consciousness in what it is to be in the frequency of source, but to hold consciousness in that space, we are not identifying there. We're experiencing it. So when we are naming our experience, we are an observation of a program. And this is when we can shift from identifying in the I am or a program observation and move it into frequency. And this is when we shift to OM codes. So in DECU, we reprogram the cells through the I am. We reprogram them to hold higher frequencies and begin to release that frequency of DMT 963 on a cellular level. When we shift to OM codes, we move into the DNA. When we do this, we start to identify those epigenetic codes. We start to see where the DNA is hooking into the environment and creating a coded system of the matrix or the program body. When we start to turn on OM codes, we shift and activate that divine operating system, the way that our bodies are supposed to be operating. Feel in your body right now. Can you feel there is an underlying current, a frequency that is so powerful that it overrides everything? That feeling inside of you that knows that you should be able to heal instantly is true. That part of you that knows that you should be able to manifest instantly is true. That part of you that knows that we're not supposed to age is true. How do we know that? And this isn't just something that one of us said and the other one is like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that. This is an innate knowing. That knowing is transcribed in your DNA. There's a reason that you feel that way. It's because that is an intelligence that is literally running through every cell of your body. And when we stop identifying in our environment through observation of a programmed reality, and we start attuning our consciousness to an intelligence that's stored inside of us, we start to advance the human experience. So this is just a little bit of showing you how our DNA is operating right now. So in OM codes, you trace along the double helix and you're able to identify which codes are holding, and at this point, it's just about all of them, that are being turned on by reading the environment of your body. And those codes are identified through the universal language of numbers, and that we can actually read the information of what those numbers are saying. And we're going to do a little process here in just a minute so that you can experience it. But when we bring our attention to a code that's been turned on epigenetically with intention, that code immediately moves into random form. And it shifts into that frequency of source and is put into the expression of that frequency. And when we do this over and over and over again, we begin to code our body to move into the expression of the intelligence of source. And this is what I would like all of you to experience. But before I do, let me just skip here to this last screen where I want to show you the evolution technology. So I'm sure a lot of you are asking, like, how do we do this? There is a reason that we use a scalar technology to have this happen. We're not doing it with our mind. We're not doing it with our consciousness. We're allowing a scalar quantum technology to turn on these codes for us, to shift the way the cell is functioning for us. When we allow the frequency to work with the frequency of our body and shift from observation to expression, we then just have the experience of what that is consciously. So that's what I want to do now. I'm going to actually stop our share. And we're going to do a process. And after the process, I'm going to open it up to question and answer. And if we have time to maybe do a few little mini sessions as well. I kind of breezed through that so that we could open it up to discussion because that's usually when the best information comes through. All right, so we're going to do a DECU process. So I'm just going to invite everyone to place their hands on their heart space. And we're going to start by connecting to a white blue light. And this white blue light holds the frequency of source. So you're going to breathe the light in through the nose, allowing it to trace along the brain, moving down through the spine and out through the mouth. And then breathing in through the nose, allowing it to trace along the brain, moving down through the spine, and then allowing it to move into your heart space, allowing it to move into your bloodstream, and then just feeling it as it moves throughout your body. And then in the next breath, I want you to breathe in that white blue light, allowing it to trace along the brain, moving down through the spine. And then as it moves back up through the spine, it's going to enter your pineal gland. You just see a tiny little white blue light in the center of your mind. And I want you to bring all your thoughts, your conscious mind into this tiny little light. And then I want you to push that light out and let it encompass your entire brain. And now we're going to move into the universal master cell in the center of the pineal gland. And this cell works with every cell of your body. And I'm just going to read the programming here on a collective level. All right, so we're going to work with clearing the fear of being seen, fear of being humiliated, the fear of not being loved, the fear of being alone, the fear of suffering. And we're going to clear with that the emotion of shame, one moment. The emotion of fear, feeling of being misunderstood. All right, so with that, I'm going to bring the first symbol of the technology into the pineal gland, allowing it to spin, bringing all the programs into that 0 point. So just having the experience, you don't have to do anything, you're just having the experience. Feeling every cell of your body move into 0 point. No space, no time. It's bringing all of those programs beyond space and time into a 0 point where they cannot exist. And then we'll activate the 7 elements, 7 states of consciousness that are held in 0 point, allowing the body to be fully conscious beyond time and space, to be fully conscious in the frequency at 963 or source intelligence. Feeling the quantum body begin to activate. And then we turn on the frequency of source, which shifting the cell from identifying in the environment to identifying as source. Feeling every cell of your body as it moves into the expression of the frequency of source. And with this, we turn on the identity of I am powerful. I am divine. I am a channel of grace. I am the intelligence of source. And from this place, I cannot fail. And as that frequency runs through every cell of your body, I'm going to move into the DNA, identifying the code that is turned on through the programmed responses of the body and bring it into the expression of Source. So we're going to bring our attention to -915,381. And just feeling in your body as that code moves into random form. Moving into the frequency of Source as it shifts to particles of possibility. And then moves into the expression of +33, 9, 11, 5, 1, 8. As the code sequences, it shifts into the expression, connecting to all of the electrons of your body as they begin to click together, creating a system of intelligence, your divine software system, your quantum body, the body that is held beyond your programmed experience. Just feeling that as it activates, you can see it almost like the inside of a computer system. It is running the intelligence of Source. Just feeling all of the cells begin to vibrate at a higher frequency, feeling your body as it expands. And then just taking a deep breath and allowing your consciousness to move into the frequency of your quantum body, your divine operating system. And then just connecting back into the I am that feels right for you. I am powerful. I am divine. I am a channel of grace. And from this place, I cannot fail. And as you are ready to open your eyes, allowing yourself to feel, what would it be like if I was divine? Who would I be if I was unstoppable? And let yourself explore with curiosity, creating that avatar of who you are as a powerful being. What are you wearing? What music do you listen to? How are you having conversations with others? What is the first thing you do when you get out of bed? And when you get off the call today, before you get up from where you're sitting, I want you to tap back into the intelligence of what was created today. And I want you to ask the frequency that was activated from your DNA. Who am I if I am powerful? You got a little kitty. Who am I? And what choices am I going to make? Am I going to go into making choices from fear if I am powerful? And just let yourself expose intelligence in the frequency of Source. All right, so now I'm going to go and shift to gallery and open it up to discussion. So you're welcome to share your experience, ask questions. If you want to go deeper into a process, this is your time, and we will hold reflection in whatever comes through. There's no right or wrong. All the kitties came out. They love the frequency. All right. Okay, don't be shy. I'm going to pick on people if you don't raise your hand. So I have no fear. All right, we're gonna go with Sean.
All right. Thank you. How are you?
Hi, Sean.
Okay. That's always a delicious experience for me. I'm not sure what to ask for you. What I've been feeling with my intention recently is like I think it's becoming like old bubble gum. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure how to. It's like, and I've been having this feeling of like being in no thought, and it's like not really interested in having an intention there. You know what I mean? So I just would, you know, and of course, I started this course with you to improve wealth manifestation, and so I'd like to see more of that in the physical realm, but on the spiritual realm, it's like, whoa, this is great.
I love that. Okay, yes. So I was actually just having a conversation about that exact thing this morning. And when we start to hold those higher frequencies, it's almost as if we have to I don't want to say relearn because we're not really relearning, but we need to learn how to experience life through that frequency. So in that stillness, when it's okay, well, I don't really want to have an intention, but I'm still living life. And we bring the intention to life is what is it to go to the gas station in this frequency and to do this in this frequency. And from there, we start to experience life as frequency. And so in that space, the intention becomes life. And so with say with wealth, what I would have you do is take it to a cellular level now. So you've been working a lot with in another course that I teach is an avatar course. But what I would do is actually go ahead and reprogram your cells to hold the frequency and have fun with it by just literally putting a frequency of an amount of money because you've done the work, Sean, right? You know how to hold your consciousness in an abstract frequency. Now let yourself experience just how powerful your divine operating system is. So if it's $10,000, put that in. And then when you reach it, you know that it's all you have to go in is and do it again. And the reason I wouldn't normally have you do that, just because we want to learn to master consciousness before we move into actually putting in those spaces. But when you're doing it, do it from the space that you're holding consciousness. Don't go back into your programming to find an amount and program your cells from your programming. Go in and experience your divine operating system, upload what it is that you're wanting to experience, and then step back into the abstract space that you're in and have the experience from there. Because then your operating system is running it for you and you're just attuning consciousness again. And that's how we should all be using intention now is put it into your operating system, let the divine frequency turn it on, and then we're just witnessing what can happen from that space because then we're bypassing our programming in that projection of frequency. Does that help?
Yeah, it does help, and it's still a little bit abstract for me. You know what I mean? It's like it's sort of like the words get in the way.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And it's like, how can I put this? It's like for me, the number is 25 grand. You know what I mean? And I've been doing that sort of like in a written thing, but it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean?
mhm. Okay, shut your eyes for a minute. Everybody pick an amount. If you want to. If you're like, nah, I don't want to, then don't. I'm not going to make you. Just shut your eyes and just pick the amount. We'll do it monthly. Okay. All right. So allow yourself to just move back into the frequency of what was created with the activation. So if you don't have to know how to do that, just feel yourself go into that. All right. So now I want you to move into your pineal gland. And we're going to turn it on. I'm just going to turn it on with the with the 33. So we're going to turn it on with this symbol. So just seeing, if you want to look at it, go ahead. Just seeing this symbol enter your pineal gland, entering your DNA, and this is activating every cell of your body. And then just seeing like almost like a key turning on a frequency in your DNA, and it's turning on that frequency of your desired amount. Okay, and then just witnessing as the frequency turns on, feeling it upload into your operating system, hitting that frequency of 963. And now I want you to take that frequency and I want you to feel it as it pushes, just almost like pushing the frequency of your body out. And just see how far it goes. And as it's doing this, it's shifting your reality to be in the expression of this frequency. Okay, and now from here, you're going to ask to have the experience of life in this frequency. And now I want everyone to, we're going to just do another process because I feel like what I'm getting here is to be very, very aware of what level of consciousness you're experiencing it from. But before I do that, I want to check in to see how you're feeling, Sean.
Um, well, for me, I saw a waterfall of gold,
I love
just
that.
constant gold, and again, it's not defined as money, but I love gold.
Mm. And that's such a high frequency. Okay, so with you, I want you to go and we're going to do this exercise. So maybe we'll do it with a water fountain of gold, just because we're in the frequency. So everybody shut your eyes and visualize a fountain of gold, a waterfall of gold, or a fountain, whatever feels right. Just notice what that feels like, what you see. If you can't see, you'll have a sensation. You may just know what a fountain of gold would look like. Okay, now I want you all to open your eyes and shake it out. Now I want you to shut your eyes and I want you to ask the frequency of source that's stored in your DNA what the fountain of gold looks like. Let it release from your DNA. Okay, so how many of you had something different when you asked the intelligence? It's different. That's the difference between the third level of consciousness, trying to make it happen, and the fourth level, the listen and do, the having the experience of the intelligence through source. You can do that in every part of your life, right? And so, and that wasn't really for you so much, Sean, but I meant to do that in the presentation, so I'm bringing it through now. Because it is so important to know what the difference feels like. And from here, Sean, it's like you already are, you're a master, right? You're a master. And now it's just remembering and everybody here, if you're on this call still, you are a master. You are just remembering your own mastery. And the thing is to be a master in the frequency of where we're going, there is nothing to pull on that's going to show you how. There's no book you're going to read.
Mhm.
You're writing the book, Sean. You're writing the book. And so if you're expecting to have a certain experience because of what somebody else said, or this, or, oh, why isn't this happening? You have to remember this is between you and the intelligence within you. Money isn't what you think it is. So stop thinking something needs to happen in order for me to think that I'm producing wealth, because wealth where you're going isn't what you think it is. Right? So we can activate these frequencies and we get to play in the matrix and see what happens, have that experience. But while you're doing it, keep in mind, where am I holding consciousness? And always challenging yourself when you have those little thoughts of, oh, but I need money, or oh, I need this, and oh, I want that. Put your consciousness behind it and be like, what is it really? And just let it show you, just like we did. I see the fountain of gold, or, ooh, I'm being shown the fountain of gold. And then explore what's being shown from that place. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that because you're going to have fun with it. I can already tell. And I'm excited for you to go there. Thank you,
Thank
Sean.
you.
Angie.
I just wanted to share. I love this conversation so much because intention or goal setting or whatever you want to call it has been such an unexpected journey on this pathway to becoming bioquantum for me. And I've noticed that intentions are so much more, I don't know if abstract is the right word, but they're just little portals now. And I think, Jules, you would probably say inception point, which is kind of like, they're just little launching pads to the arena I'm wanting to experiment in. And some days it's career, and some days it's relationship, and some days it's something else. Because what happens is once I start on it, it evolves from there as I experiment with the tools in
Mhm.
relation to an intention or a quadrant of life that I'm wanting to affect. Does that make sense? So in essence, that's all intentions are for me right now. It's just that starting point, because exactly what you say about asking, well, what is the waterfall really, is really with everything. So an intention now just organically leads to, okay, well, I'm just going to enter through this portal, but it's going to tell me and lead me if I engage in that way. So it's so fascinating to me, because they morph now in such a different way. So just wanted to share that.
I love that. And I am just going to comment too on intention. And it's almost like I call it the Yugal system. So when we're putting an intention in, we're putting it into our software system. Once it's running, once we have the intention and we put it into that frequency of our divine body, it's running, you guys, right? And our job is to use our consciousness to attune. What does it mean to attune? Piano, bing, 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 bing. Sean, you're a musician, bing, bing, bing. And then we're with our consciousness matching that frequency, right? And how do you do that? You have to be really aware, right? Is that it? Is that matching? Right? So you're always kind of like, so you're listening to the subtle energy of what my body feels like. Are my thoughts matching that? Am I seeing through that frequency? Am I hearing through that frequency? Because as we start to experience the quantum body, we're using our intuition as our senses more than we are our physical senses. And there's a reason for that, because our physical body is in a program of a primal response, because our programmed body is programmed to stay alive. But we can hold consciousness in a frequency that is well above that, right? So just think what it would be like. I'm going to get to you, Rebecca, because I feel like this is so valid just to show you an example of what's possible. So I've been kind of having these weird things with my body and healing. And you have to remember, when we're reprogramming and we're doing all this stuff, we're doing it for ourselves. We're not going to a healer. We're not going to this. This is between you and the intelligence that's stored inside of you. You're just actively participating by using a tool to turn it on. So one of the things that I started to notice is like I went through this period of time where I had a lot of fun. It's like, oh, I burnt myself. Now I'm going to heal it instantly. Oh, I cut myself. Oh, I'm going to heal it instantly. And I just loved it. It was fun, right? And then I kind of got over it. And then I would be in situations maybe where I couldn't really go in because it takes like a very pristine state of consciousness to be able to do that, right? And then I kind of like let it go. And so the other day on Friday, I was doing something with my daughter and I sliced open my finger and it was really deep and bleh, it was like it was and the next day it got all like swollen and everything and I was like, oh, I should have done the healing thing. And I was like surprised, like almost like how bad it got because I was like, oh, I should be healing much easier than that, right? And then the next day it was gone. I didn't do anything. I didn't try. It just healed itself that fast. Yeah, and this is like should have been 2 to 3 week healing. Gone. Like there's a little red mark, like you would never know. And I was like, oh, my body knows how to do it, and I don't have to tell it what to do anymore. It just knows. And I had another thing happen with my toe. Like I think I broke it, and now it's like fine. I couldn't walk last night. I did it like I walked my dog last night, yesterday and evening, and this morning I woke up out of bed expecting not to be able to walk like I was when I went to bed, and it's fine. So these are like, and I'm not trying, you guys. Like when the divine operating system gets turned on, it's turned on. Like consciousness isn't trying to make it happen. Your body already knows what to do. And that's why we have to let the body turn on this a higher level operating system so that we can have the experience of what's possible. Our consciousness has no idea how powerful we are. We have no idea. Like this is only the beginning of where we're going. Okay, Rebecca.
I just was going to share briefly my experience of that process. First of all, I feel like what Angie was saying and what Sean was saying, being in this space of like in your work and getting clearer and clearer on frequency, but then that for me, it's been a big question mark in terms of like, well, how does that work in terms of form and my material life and all these goals and all these intentions? And so doing a process around something as tangible as an amount of money, which I've never thought to do that. Even though I've been working similar to Sean on wealth consciousness throughout the course of the Avatar course, but doing it for an amount of money, when we started, my mind immediately started throwing up all this resistance. Like, oh, you picked a number that was too high. You need to bring it down. That's never going to happen. It's impossible. Why, how did you come up with this number? You know, all this stuff. And then it was like immediately almost the same experience of when we did the golden waterfall. And I saw it shift into frequency. And I had the experience of that amount of money and just money in general as frequency. And the information that was coming through to put words to it was like, oh my gosh, this is such a creative energy. You know, like I have such an ability to spread love and blessings and creation. And it's just giving me this almost power to um merge with my environment in this very loving way and kind of like spread frequency in a way that is both vis-a-vis frequency, but also vis-a-vis the world. Anyway, it was just something like I've never quite seen before, even though I've had a lot of downloads come through about money. And so I really do feel like that's where so many of us are in this work, is like we've had such an amazing experience of raising in frequency and consciousness beginning to shift, and you get all of this information, and now it's like, okay, well, like what's that gonna be? Like what's that expression actually gonna look like? And it's very, very exciting. And I am so grateful for this call and that process, because it made it like so clear. Because I think as spiritual people, we almost sometimes have like a level of guilt about wanting material things or wanting to create, material aspects of our lives. And really that's also just an expression of frequency. It's just an expression of that divine intelligence that's like creating through us. So anyway, I just was really cool.
You know what I saw happen for you, Rebecca, in this, and I know this is what you just said, but I'm going to just say it back to you,
Please.
is you shifted from, okay, I need this money in order to whatever, blah, 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 to look at this gift that I have. And by giving my gift, it's almost like the more you give your gift, the more comes in. So you can give your gift even more and more and more and more. And you went to the other side of what that was. And I can see it in you. I can see it also downloading in you. So I'm sure you're going to get more with that. But that's what I always say. I have the thing is like when you're in the frequency of 963, and of course I always have talk about it in kind of where you're holding consciousness. And when you're in your programming, you know it. You feel it, right? It doesn't feel that good. It kind of feels a little icky, or it feels like, oh, I want to have this emotion, or I don't want to feel this. And I have this thing, if you're naming it good or bad, guess what? You're in your programming. It's really that easy. That's how you know. If you're saying this is good and this is bad, program. If you're having an experience, then you know that too, because it's just an experience. There's no judgment to it. And that's where we're all going as the evolved human, is that we are entering the frequency and what it is to experience life through frequency. And in frequency, it's just frequency. We're not, this is a good frequency and this is a bad frequency. No, it's just frequency. It's just frequency. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
All right, Kathy, we're going to go with you. And then I'm sure we're getting, 2 more minutes.
So I had the experience with what you were talking about with the fountain, and what I saw and was totally neutral with is I saw a little fountain on the table. And then when you said to tap into the frequency, it was in a square. It was the fountain was now as big as outside in the square. So it was very different than I've ever experienced before. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. All right, beautiful soul. So from here, please go and like and subscribe our YouTube channel. I'm doing that shout out. It's going to be a repeated thing. I'm going to say every single time, because every time you subscribe and like, it creates a beautiful energy, and it's connecting us all together in this. And everything is not what we think it is. And I love playing in the matrix and feeling the frequency of what it is divine, but beyond that. And so I'm going to challenge you to go press subscribe and then feel the frequency that you feel after you do that. Or go like it and see what it feels like after you do that. Because when you do that, you're connecting into the frequency that is being created as the pioneers, as we move into this new world, this new earth, the frequency of source through the body. All right. I love you all so much, and I hope to see you tomorrow. And until then, go experience this beautiful frequency. Go explore who you are. If you are powerful, how will you live your life? Let the intelligence show you.